addicted and unshown. The name 12, the last, is the gauge of the blast. Hear me out, it's all about the game. The YouTube streets ain't got no shame. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. 12 gauge, listen up fast. The beat of the heart will melt your cast. It's the crown of the champ, the image of the might. Get your ass ready, because here comes the might. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. Listen to the words that run from my mic. There will be knowledge and facts delight. You don't get it, you think I'm the brash. Listen to the ones that you just throw away your cash. 12, 12, 12, can you remember the name? It's about a sinister shadow in the dark to ruin your sleep. With the mares of the night that give you chills, come to the channel. You can get your fears brought to live without the senses making a fight. Your brain beat down from the grifters on these streets. Give the channel a try and dance to the beat of a different drum. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. MG and success is what I'm about. It's the honesty and humility without the clout. I chose to be who I am a long time ago. Addiction had me drowning hell on with the show. 12, 12, 12, 12, click, click, boom. Another round for the unconvinced, here it comes now. Well, are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. If you're looking for a good time, you found it. The channel is all about diversity. And tonight, we're not going to talk out of war. We're going to talk about murder. And you know, I've been I've been at the movies, and I'm going to give a rate for the Thunderbolt movie. Don't waste your money to go watch it. It's long, drawn out, and boring. It's like a generic Avengers movie. And I mean, I don't know if you are Marvel people or you are DC people, but either way, I didn't enjoy it. So, um, you know, I got the boys and said, y'all want a jet? Y'all want a dip? They're like, yeah, let's go. It's like, all right, let's go. I don't care about the $23. Let's just bounce. This movie sucks. So if you were planning on going to watch that movie this weekend, don't do it. Wait till it comes out on you. Wait till it comes out on YouTube or what you might call it, Netflix or one of those others, because it's really not that great. There's one out right now that's called Sinners. That Sinner, I think, and I think that might be a good one. I might check out the ads for that one. Um, as you can tell, my biggest fan is barking his ass off right now. So, I appreciate all the love. As far as murder, um, what can I say? Murder happens every day. It happened to multitudes of people. And I've had a lot of people come at me about, some of the stuff that I've said on the last two lives about the documents. And all I can say about that is they're legal documents. I can't really say anything else other than if you're mad, be mad at the game, not the player, right? I gotta get ready for the live. Y'all like this tea? Peach tea? Since my addiction, I thought I'd never drink anything with peach flavoring ever again because there for the longest time, peach tree schnapps was not my friend. I got so sick off that stuff. You know, can't do it. Nina, if you're still in the chat, would you like to come up and read? Um, if not, then we're going to continue on with the show. Yeah, wish I could sing like that. We got beggars, grifters, and betties too. The dog wants to sing though, right? That song kind of catchy, isn't it? Or is it just me that I'm biased towards something that I kind of wrote the lyrics for. And I have some videos out too that I put out today. I don't know if you've seen them, but I'm trying to get myself out there in the algorithm and just let more people find out who the 12 is and what he's all about. Because I don't think a lot of people still realize that I'm here. There's certain people that realize that I'm here, but I'm trying to just destroy this mic and get it going all over. Not because I need it, but because I really kind of want it. Why not be successful, right? You can't apologize for success when you're driven and nothing stands in your way other than you. Why not be successful just like everybody in the chat? You don't sit there and say, "Well, I'm going to be mediocre today because there's other people that do the same thing I do." Hell no. You're going to be above and beyond. You're going to go through whatever it is you got to go through. Dang, that sounds delicious. I can't do that though. That's too much peach stuff. I want some homemade vanilla with peaches from Bluebell. God, that is just too much peaches right there. Let me say hello to my subs and the people that are watching. Hello from afar. Come on in from the bushes. Come on into the highlight. There's plenty of seats for you. Grab a seat. Come and sit down and join the chat. We're not talking Idaho. We're not talking any of that stuff. You can give your free opinion on anything you'd like as long as you don't attack me or anybody in the chat. Or even if you cuss somebody or, any of that. We're not into all that over here. It is pretty good. I haven't had it in a long time. I love raspberry also. Yeah, that razzleberry stuff is pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. I gotta agree. You ever had that peach ice cream in Fairfield? I haven't. I haven't. There's a chat changing their tune, thinking he might be guilty. Brian, are you serious? What chat is that? I haven't been on YouTube today other than what I put out. I try not to live on these streets, bro. Like I'm not homeless. I got a life. I'm not gonna live on the YouTube streets. They're dirty, grimy, and they have a lot of ugliness in them. But there are some great people, like the people that are in the chat tonight, and the people that visit the show. Y'all are the real all stars. Y'all bring this to life, and always remember that. Well, like that song said, oh Tommy, really? No way, no way. Oh well, I'm glad to see that he might see the light. So let me go ahead and get started. Y'all welcome the people to come in. If you're lurking from the bushes, come on in, chat with us. let's get this chat kind of rolling. You don't have to talk about the book. You can talk about, hey, I'm so and so. Introduce yourself to the chat. The more people we get in here, the more of a camaraderie we get. And you don't have to make this your home chat. Just like you don't, when you go to church or whatever, you don't have to make it your home church. You can visit, congregate, and get on with the show, right? So y'all have a good time chatting. If y'all have a question, please put it in star form, and I'll try to answer it. Like I said, I'm on the other page, so I really can't see everything. So give me a chance to get over here and answer the questions. Okay. The last two documents changed his mind. All right. Good for Tommy. The second problem, and really the more daunting, was that I needed to convince the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office to let me try their murders. In the post OJ world of Los Angeles County politics, the conviction of a vicious serial killer with national media attention would be a big political win for the elected district attorney. The smart political move, arguably, would be to tell me to pound sand and proceed on their three solid DNA cases. I had never met LADA Steve Cooley before, and he didn't know me from Adam. The right thing, in my view, would be to combine the cases, let me try them in Orange County, and join ranks before the California Supreme Court on the multi jurisdictional prosecution issue. The question was Steve Cooley a real prosecutor who was going to make a decision based on what was best for the victim families and what was tactically best for the cases? Or was he just another politician who would do what was best for his image? I called the assigned LADA prosecutor Genus Satriano. By the end of the conversation, I had not only made my pitch, but also made a lifelong friend. Gina was, in a word, wonderful. She agreed with it all, and we decided to approach Cooley with our plan to try the cases together. If you don't know who Matt Murphy is, y'all might check him out. Um, Look him up on YouTube. He has plenty of platforms that he's been on. He's been a prosecutor in the Orange County DA's office for a long time. He worked homicide before then, sexual assault unit. He has an extensive history um, of what he's done in his lifetime. So if you don't know who Matt Murphy is, go check him out. You won't be disappointed. We added ourselves onto the agenda for Cooley's next staff meeting. Cooley had once been a no nonsense former cop and real deal prosecutor, but he also had designs on a run for the California Attorney General's office, where he eventually suffered a razor thin defeat to future Vice President Kamala Harris. He was a steely eyed, obviously smart as hell, and more than a little intimidating. In a room surrounded by perhaps 40 of his top lieutenants, I made my presentation. The head of Cooley's major crimes unit replied first, recommending against my request, and again adding in his belief that the parent 2 case, the one where the evidence had been lost, was untenable and should not be pursued. This was one of Cooley's main guys. In front of all of Cooley's other top managers and executive staff, the two men had probably known each other for decades and obviously had great working relationships. This was going downhill fast, but I saw a fleeting opportunity and decided to throw a Hail Mary. Interrupting the trusted division head, I said, give me parent thou and I'll win that case too. The room went silent. See, that's the kind of confidence that you must have in your abilities. And I'm not talking about false confidence. I'm talking about confidence. Like, you know what? You're great at something. Let's get on with it. Let me show you what I can do. Move out of the way. Let me show you what's up. Cooley raised his eyebrows and looked at me with an intense expression. I wasn't sure if he thought that was the rudest thing he had ever seen, appreciated the chutzpah, or was about to have me escorted out of his meeting. He cocked his head, locked eyes on mine, and stared. We'll let you know, he said sternly. Now we have a lot of other business to discuss. That presented a very unambiguous clue that it was time for me to leave. Thank you, sir, is what I said out loud as I headed out the door. My internal monologue, however, was a little different. Like many of us, I have a voice in my head far more prosecutorial and biting than anything I have ever seen in a real courtroom. The voice has convicted me 1,000 times in the tribunal of internal self doubt, and always for the same crime, stupidity. My former boss, Rick King, actually coined a phrase for it in the context of big trials: PAPV psychosis. This stands for post argument pre verdict period of time when a jury is deliberating and you begin beating yourself up for every mistake and every questionable tactical decision you might have made throughout an entire trial. This felt very much like that. Why, Murphy, did you have to interrupt that man? All this time and all this energy with family depending on you, and you run into a rude jackass. You turn into a rude jackass in front of a room full of people you don't know. Nice job, you idiot. It went on and on until I got a call from Gina about 2 hours after the meeting. Okay, partner, we got the green light. And by the way, Steve wanted me to tell you, he said you're his kind of guy. You saw a chance and you took it. He loved your pitch. As I mentioned earlier, one of the amazing things about working homicide is watching the horror of the case is balanced out by heroes you meet along the way. Steve Cooley in my eyes, and by any convincible measure, was and will always remain a hero. It took 7 years before we actually got to trial. From 2003 until 2010 with Alcala, putting up roadblocks every step of the way. Sound familiar? We prevailed in front of the California Supreme Court on a jurisdictional issue, which was another amazing part of the journey. Gina and I embarked upon on that afternoon in Cooley's staff meeting. To this day, anytime a deputy district attorney wants to assert a multi-jurisdictional prosecution, they cite our decision in People versus Alcala. In fact, in the ensuing years, I got to cite my own case as I made the same move on other serial killers I prosecuted. Not to overstate it, but that was cool as hell. After Alcala's assigned attorneys failed to win on his behalf time and time again, for good reason, we experienced another radical twist in the already twisted case. Rodney Alcala, the charming genius psychopath, decided to represent himself. This meant that on a daily basis for the better part of a year, I had to engage with him not just as a criminal defendant, but as a lawyer. This again was right out of the serial killer handbook. When criminal defendants represent themselves, it is called pro per pros status, which are Latin terms essentially mean for yourself. A prosecutor must treat pro per defendants like we would any other lawyer. You might not extend all of the same professional courtesies, like exchanging cell phone numbers, but it's still very important that you deal with them fairly. Some of my colleagues hated pro per cases, but I never minded. After all, these offenders are virtually guaranteed to make some fundamental mistake you would never see from a professional trial lawyer. And for me, especially with defendants like Alcala or rapist Douglas Hopper, who also represented himself, I can't deny that I was also fascinated. Dealing with someone like that on a daily basis during a lengthy trial, you get a solid dose of their ability to manipulate. You come to appreciate how they can lure their victims into positions of vulnerability. I knew everything these people had done, or at least what they had been caught doing. And yet, here they were, wrapped in a veneer of normacy, even charm. In the end, Hopper was convicted of everything and received multiple life sentences. He even sent me Christmas cards for years. As for Alcala, it was a little more complicated. Gina, quite understandably, recoiled at the idea of having to personally deal with him. Who could blame her? So we decided to use that to our advantage. Perhaps we could tap into his obvious lack of respect for women. We decided that in the spirit of moving the case along as efficiently as possible, I would pretend to be Alcala's buddy. Every time we had to deny a request, which was often, I would just blame Gina. I don't know what her problem is today, Rod. Seemed like a reasonable request to me, but she said no. Sorry, dude. This is how we would move the trial along, leading us to the guilty verdicts I was certain we would get, at least for 3 of the 5 cases. Conventionally, one might think dealing with a monster like Alcala would be a horrific experience. If I'm totally honest, I was every bit as fascinated by the prospect of getting into his head as I was repulsed. To the extent this was going to be a battle of wits, and I relished the opportunity. Besides, like a tarantula in a jar, he was in a controlled environment and couldn't hurt anyone. All hairy with fangs and beady eyes, he was morbidly intriguing to me. And one thing that I've noticed about these individuals that discuss about interviewing these serial killers and talking to them and all this and that and the other, not one of these experts has ever said they were able to pinpoint what made them do it. Not one. So when other people talked about, well, this could have been why, or this is why, many of them are talking about they had childhood abuse issues in their formative years. I've even talked about that foolishly. But come to find out, they don't. Most of them don't have issues at all. They're as normal as you and I until they get to that point where something shifts and they start to become who they're to become. So all these individuals that are talking about understanding the mind of a killer, it's not that easy. It's not like you can read something and say, well, I can identify exactly what he was talking about. It's not. I've tried. It's not easy. You get the basics, but you'll never know until you're face to face with them and interviewing them. Do you get what I'm saying? It's all right, Leslie. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad all of you are here. But do y'all understand that? You cannot get into the mind of a serial killer and actually understand their motives, their desires, their any of that. You can assimilate what you would believe it was, but until you interview them or they tell you right out front, it's just another mystery in the inner web of their murderous ways. Do y'all agree with that or disagree? Because y'all are very into true crime. Y'all are very into true crime. And I'd really like to hear what y'all have to say about that. Because, like I said, without you, there is no me and there is no show. So let me know what y'all think about what I just said. It's not as easy as one would think to understand what makes a killer tick, what makes their impulses to kill this person and leave this person alive. You get what I'm saying? Like I was watching a case earlier called the Pillowcase Murders, and that individual left some people alive and he killed other people. You know, Rondi says, has any one of the killers rehabilitated? I don't believe so. I don't believe so, but I could be wrong. So think about that a little bit. Do you think that killers really have a formula that we could ever identify what leads them to do what they do? Like the Delphi, the Gilgo Beach, the Night Stalker. I always want to call it the Green Valley Killer, but it's not that. It's the Green River Killer. Um, all those killers, man. Ted Bundy. Hell, even John Wayne Gacy was a family man. BTK was a family man. They have lives to let them intertwine into society and have the ability to hide out while living an alter ego. Just because we know about alter ego does not know that every serial killer or every killer has a reasoning for it. Some just love to kill, right? Some like to kill. Do you agree or no? What do y'all think? Green River is the one I can tell you everything on him. Well, that's great. I did a little research on him, and I know that it's from your area of the woods. And maybe one day you can come up here and you can give us some understanding on that case, because it's like the more you seek to understand someone who acts in an evil way, wouldn't you have to think evil yourself in order to understand it? It's kind of like many people say, well, if you're not an addict, how can you ever understand what I'm dealing with, what I go through? Well, that's understandable. And that's really a strong statement, because just because the book teaches you how to incorporate certain things does not mean that everybody is a carbon copy of what that book is stating. You know, Ridgway got away with it for years. Isn't that guy Ridgway? He was a former cop, right? Is that the one? Yeah, BTK is a scary one because he was a family man and he was doing it for years. Israel Keys, family man. Nothing really strange stuck out. No one really suspected. And that's what we're talking about tonight when we're talking about murder is many people, including myself, I'm going to put myself in there because I've tried to profile and do all this stuff, but you can't. I mean, there's people like Gary Bricado and Russell, people like that that I respect. How even Matt Murphy, who I respect, that have greater understanding about how these individuals would tick because they have a lifelong experience of identifying and trying to find the patterns and understandings of their psyche. Like I said, just because I look at a photo, just because I watch a video, just because I see something, kind of like the Delphi, you watch that man and you watch that camera go off the screen and say, down the hill, that doesn't really incorporate you to have the ability to understand the mindset of that individual that took those girls down that hill and killed them. You get what I'm saying? I mean, I hate it. And people try. They really do try. I've tried. But all it does is leave you confused if you're not really articulating and understanding it. Reading The New Evil and reading this book has opened my eyes to a lot of different entities when it comes to serial killers and killers and rapists and people that strangle. You know, it's not as cut and dry as people think. As a capital case, Alcala's trial would be divided into two parts: the guilt phase, when the jury would decide if he committed the charged murders, and the penalty phase, when they would determine if he would be condemned to die, symbolically at least, or face life in prison without the possibility of parole. If you don't know who Rodney Alcala was, he was the game show killer. Um, once the trial began in earnest, it was intriguing to watch Alcala's mind work. I've never read this in any academic article, but I've noticed that whatever allowed these guys to separate from humanity and commit these crimes in the first place seems to always mean that they have a fundamental problem reading the room. Ted Bundy, interestingly, was exactly the same way. I've heard that. I've heard that. But that doesn't make a killer, right? There's some socially awkward people in this world. Doesn't make them killers. rapists, any of that. But, like you said, there are some people that have some similarities. It makes you wonder, okay, he can't read the room. What does that mean? Well, think about it. Like they can't refrain from collecting trophies. Psychopaths often can't resist the opportunity to exert power in a courtroom. They love to represent themselves. Alcala had trained himself to do cross examination of witnesses that were quite technically sound from a legal perspective. What he seemed utterly oblivious to, however, was that, as he pointed out, some mere inconsistency in some years earlier statements made by Robin's mother, all the jury saw was the monster who killed the poor woman's daughter, calling her a liar. The jury was horrified at every step as he attacked the families of his victims, forcing them to relive the details of what he had done. It was terrible to watch, but spectacular from the point of view that he was self-destructing in front of the jury, making it more and more certain that they would never be on his side. There was another surreal moment that happened in the middle of the guilt phase. Rodney Alcala called himself to the stand. For reasons known only to him, he had grown his hair out before the trial in a way that made him look even more like a composite sketch. With a jean jacket and gray curls flowing over his shoulders, he began to ask himself questions in the third person. Again, unable to read the room. Defendant Alcala answered questions posed by attorney Alcala, which he read one by one from a yellow legal pad on his lap. He explained all the reasons why he didn't and couldn't have murdered Robin Samso. The jury looked like they were magnetically repulsed. Can you imagine somebody's talking in the third person to themselves and asking themselves why they couldn't have done this? And he's the one on trial for murder? Yeah, wild. Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is in the process of making a mistake." Right. I didn't assert a single objection. The spectacle was equal parts bizarre and awesome. It was a living embodiment of an old adage you hear in law school that had been attributed to Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, and others who probably never said it. It is true nonetheless. The man who defends himself in court has a fool for a lawyer and a jackass for a client. Amen to that. In dealing with Alcala every day, however, I could also see how so many of these young women would get into his car back in the day. He'd lost some of his charm and all of his looks, but if I pictured him 30 years younger, a cocky, handsome young man who thought he knew it all. I could imagine exactly how he lured these vulnerable women into helpless positions. It all made sense in his own mind. The dating game was just one more example of how he craved the attention, the power, the fame, and yet lacked all self awareness to understand how the world perceived him. Very narcissistic, wouldn't you say? During one conversation I will never forget, he provided a beguiling window into his thought process. The jury had been sent home for the day, and we were waiting for the judge to take the bench. There was no particular hurry, and I had a question for him. We had just sentenced a notoriously violent white supremacist and prison gang leader to death row on an unrelated case. Hey, Rod, I asked him, what do you do when guys like that get sent to death row? Are you afraid that he might get to you? It was a legitimate question. Of all the training you receive as a deputy district attorney, they provide exactly none of how death row actually works. I was curious. Maddie responded with surprise, disappointment in his voice. I'm on the weenie yard, a term the inmates give themselves for those classified as non-dangerous to other inmates and staff. He'll be on the heavy yard, and I'll never see him. You know me. I'm not violent. He was actually offended. Ponder that for a moment. This is a man who had smashed women's faces in with rocks and raped them with hammers. He tortured, sexually brutalized, and murdered his way through the late 1960s and most of the 1970s. In his mind, however, he was not violent. It was an amazing moment, and as much as I wanted to respond with outrage, I couldn't break the character of friendly professionalism. Besides, there was no need. I would get to do that in my closing argument. I certainly felt for every one of my witnesses, for everyone who had to speak to this man who had tortured and killed their loved ones, and answer his questions if he deserved a moment of their time. But I particularly felt for Robin Samso's mother, as Alcala cross-examined her, calling her a liar, questioning her credibility, insisting she was making up the fact that her daughter was wearing earrings that day, earrings that Alcala had saved in his storage locker stash. Robin's mother, she had been raked over the coals in two trials and extensively during the appellate process. She had been accused by two different defense lawyers and multiple appellate attorneys arguing on Alcala's behalf that she had made up the story of the earrings. Alcala had even written a book called You, the Jury, where he goes through each item of evidence introduced against them in the second trial while simultaneously proclaiming his innocence and decrying the horrors of the death penalty. Sound familiar? The problem for him is that we had requested the jewelry in the silk pouch be reprocessed. There was no DNA recovered on any of the items except one, a tiny white gold rose earring with 0.06 nanograms of Charlotte Lamb DNA. Just like the detective Robeson suspected years before, we now had definitive proof the silk pouch was a trophy case. Robin's mother had been right all along. Jill Parento's family attended every day of the trial. There were bits and pieces that matched the details of some of the other crimes. Her screen had been cut on the left side, just like the entry to Georgia Wichtel's apartment. Alcala was left-handed. She had been strangled, raped, and posed in a very similar manner to Charlotte Lamb. The rare blood type in the serology slide was the same as Alcala's, one out of every 98 people. And of course, her jewelry box had been left open on her dresser. The night before she was murdered, Jill Parento was at a restaurant in Pasadena called the Handlebar Saloon and had been seen speaking to a man who looked an awful lot like Rodney. So we had some good stuff to work with and things to argue, but you never know what's going to happen in a jury trial. At some point, for some reason, Rodney asked me to obtain the owner's manual for his Datsun station wagon, which was still in the possession of the Huntington Beach police. Detective Pat Ellis, my lead investigator during the trial, went down during the lunch break to see if he could find the manual and returned with a giant smile on his face. I have good news, and I have great news, he said. The good news is that I found the stupid owner's manual. The great news is I also found this right next to the manual in the bag containing the items from Alcala's glove box was a matchbook from the Handlebar Saloon in Pasadena. Back in the day, nobody ever knew to look because nobody in Orange County knew about Parento. We freaking got him, Pat said, clenching his fist. It was an amazing find. We got him. Doesn't that kind of resonate the cockiness of a killer where they think that they're going to get away with everything and they don't have you don't have the evidence to convict them and then you find something like that. I mean, in all these other trials that are currently going on, out of the blue you hear about different things popping out and you're like, well, we never heard about that before, you know. But there's also ways whenever stuff like this happens when you say there is there is a ability to catch the bad guy. The bad guy doesn't always have to win. The pathologist's testimony was disturbing. They methodically explained how the victims had died. Alcala would strangle these women, but do it slowly, bringing them back again and again to the brink of life so that he could violate them in every way possible. There was a good, copious amount of semen found in every scene. He would keep them alive so he could recharge and do it again and again before finally deciding to watch the light of life leave their eyes. And then he would pose them and photograph their dead bodies. Rodney Alcala was a monster. There's no other word for him. When it was the last time to give my closing argument, I could finally let loose, and I went pretty hard. I raised my voice, pointed my finger at him, and walked that jury through every single charged sadistic act committed by the demon in the room with us. Also called him out for his treatment of Robin's mother when she testified. For the first time, he finally realized that I wasn't his buddy. His response again was technically sound enough, but he focused all his energy on the Robin Samso case. He kept saying that I had engaged in magical thinking, a term I'll never quite understand when the facts are perfectly clear. In the end, when you looked at the breadth of everything we had been doing and compared those photographs of Charlotte Lamb to Jill Parento, the bite marks on the breast of each adult victim, the striking similarity of the composite sketch, along with the matchbook from the Handlebar Saloon, the evidence for all 5 murders was simply overwhelming. The jury convicted him on all 5 counts in just a few hours. This was huge for everyone, but I felt particularly relieved for the Parento family. We then moved out to the bifurcated penalty phase. We began with what is known as B-factor evidence, or other crimes of violence. Now we were able to reveal for the first time some of the horrors of Alcala's past. Callie Shapiro, as one of the first witnesses, finally testified against the man who had brutalized her so many years before. It was a brave moment. We had another witness, Monique H., whose rape Alcala had been on bail for when he murdered Robin Sanso. Imagine that for just a moment. The judge knew about Tally, knew about the parole violations, and had to legally presume he had committed the charged rape. With a duty to weigh to consider the public safety, the bench officer still set bail low enough for Alcala to be released. Monique was 15 years old when he picked her up in 1979, convincing her to pose for nude photos in a deserted area of the mountains and then turning on her, striking her in the head with a tree branch, and knocking her unconscious. She awoke to find that Alcala had gagged her by shoving a t-shirt down her throat and was strangling her with his bare hands. He bit her on the breast until she lost consciousness from the pain and awoke again to find that Alcala had bound her wrists and ankles with a cord. He raped and sodomized her as he pleaded for her life. She promised not to tell anyone. In fact, her exact line was, "We can't tell anyone what we did here today." She convinced him that she cared for him. She was able to get him to drive her back into town. She ran from the car and called the police. He was arrested, bailed out, and then approached Robin and Bridget a week later. So on that day, Rodney Alcala encountered Robin Samso. He was a registered sex offender on 1 grant of parole for a child molestation for which he had received a life sentence, and simultaneously on a separate grant of bail for the alleged rape and kidnapping of a 15-year-old girl. If that makes your head spin, it should. Over cross-examination, Alcala asked Monique if she remembered that he had apologized in the car after the attack. "Just testify that I apologized to you," Alcala said. It was sickening, but tactically great for us. Monique was facing Alcala again for the first time since that horrible day. No longer a child, she responded by driving nail after nail into his coffin. Between her and Tally, They spoke for every woman and girl who had encountered Alcala but did not survive. We then got into the A factor evidence, which includes victim impact testimony. This means family members get to take the stand and testify about how the murder of their loved one impacted their lives. The entire Alcala penalty phase was striking, but this is where it got profound. These were murders that had been committed more than 30 years before, and those poor people testified in court, and I don't think any of them were able to hold back their tears. Robin Samso's mother was a shell of her former self, but the emotion was positively raw. In many ways, she had never moved on from the horror of seeing her daughter's battered skull, and it showed. Charlotte Lamb's sister, complete with charming southern drawl, described how she tried to touch up her beloved sister's makeup for her funeral and was shocked to see that her skin under the foundation had turned a shade of blue-green with the early stages of poorly embalmed decomposition. Jill Barkham's brother wept uncontrollably. The entire penalty phase was a stark reminder of the human cost and immense multi-generational impact of rape and murders. Losing a loved one under such circumstances truly is the worst thing. Let me pause for a minute, see what you are talking about. Oh, you are talking about Tommy? Oh, Lord. I wonder if it was televised. That's an interesting question. What do y'all think about this guy? I mean, they all have their own distinctive arrogance. Even the quiet ones that appear that they don't talk, they're reliving a lot of the stuff in their head. Alcala, however, had one more trick up his sleeve. For his closing argument in the penalty phase, he played Arlo Guthrie's famous song from the 60s, Alice's Restaurant. There's a point where Guthrie sings about feigned bloodlust in the attempt to avoid induction into the army. Shrink, I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to see veins in my teeth. Alcala, the man who had slaughtered so many from his own perverse sexual pleasure, then told the jury that if they voted to execute him, they would be no better than the man in this song. Out for blood for no good reason. In addition to being an entirely ineffective argument, it was positively one of the most bizarre things I've ever witnessed. Again, it is revealing Vidnet into the mind of a psychopath. As mentioned before, they just can't read the room. The jury returned a verdict of death, and Rodney Alcala was sentenced accordingly for a third time. He would never be executed in California, of course, but it represented a huge win for the families who had lost their daughters, sisters, and friends so long ago. The good guys, at long last, had won. I spent 7 years living with those murders. Alongside the rest of my caseload, and Gina Satriano and I became true friends. As the case was pending, I went through several more relationships, and so did Gina. We'd often find ourselves complaining to each other about the complexity of dating women. Like so many other dedicated homicide prosecutors, Gina went through a divorce from her wife during our time together on the case. In addition to our work on Alcala, we bonded together to our mutual romantic struggles. Gina is another true hero. I love that woman and I hope we will remain friends until the day that I die. Rodney Alcala later pleaded guilty to two more murders to avoid a trial in New York. Cornelia Criley was a TWA flight attendant who was found strangled to death with a stocking in her apartment. A bite mark on her body was consistent with Alcala dental records. Ellen Hoover was found in the woods a year later after vanishing. Her calendar noted a meeting on a day she went missing with a photographer by the name of John Berger, Alcala's alias. He was also charged with the murder of Christine Thornton in Wyoming after her family saw Thornton's photo in an online collection from Alcala's storage locker that was released to the public. Given the quality of photos found in that locker and the fact that no one knew just how many people Alcala had killed, police released the photo collection in the hope that families of other victims would recognize their missing relatives and come forward. At that point, he was too ill to travel, and so authorities simply let the charges sit and did not attempt to extradite him for trial. Alcala was formally named as a suspect in the murder that took place in Washington State, New Hampshire, and Arizona. In 2011, Gina and I assisted investigators in tracking one more murder back to Rodney Alcala, this time in Marin County, California. Photos from the stored locker contain images from Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, where in 1977 yet another young woman, 19-year-old Pamela Lamson, met a photographer who convinced her to go into the wooded area in Marin County. Like Charlotte Lamb and Jill Parento, she was discovered completely naked. Like Jill Barkham, she was found on a fire road often used as a hiking trail. Like all of them, she was a beautiful young woman, loved by her family, whose earrings were missing when her battered body was found. Rodney Alcala died in prison in 2021 after fading away slowly with dementia before he got sick. However, even when all avenues for possible release had been exhausted and he knew he was never getting out, he still wouldn't agree to work with police to sort out exactly how many people he had killed. Instead, he wasted taxpayer resources on nonsense, suing the California prison system over a bogus slip and fall claim, and suing again for failing to receive a low-fat diet, on top of his failed effort to prevent the mandatory collection of DNA samples to check against the nationwide CODIS database of unsolved violent crimes. I think there's an important lesson here, especially as states like California start to swing back to the policy of therapy and early release. Predators like Rodney Alcala do not reform. There is no treatment that can modify the behavior of a genuine sexual psychopath, and attempting to fix these people is nothing short of reckless folly. When monsters like Alcala are released, they will kill other people. It may not be popular to say this, especially in the era of professed criminal justice reform, and we want to believe that everyone is redeemable, but Rodney Alcala was living proof that some people are not. Sexual predators do not get better. They may get better at not getting caught, but they do not change. When we release violent sexual predators, it is only a matter of time before more innocent people and families suffer. Well, that's where I'm going to stop with that. Give me some of your thoughts on this. I wouldn't know if he, I don't know if he would be a sex addict. I think it all went hand in hand. Power and control. Power and control. You know, the fact that he would play with them, almost kill them, let them come back to life, almost kill them, let them come back to life. The sadistic torturing and all the stuff that he did to them. I think it was more about the excitement of playing with your victim until you get tired of it and then you kill them. You know? Well, they said he was a psychopath. Well, thank you, Leslie. I didn't see that, but thank you so much for your donation. I don't know. I have to look that up, Rondi. Um, Sadistic as he might seem, he probably does fit the mold, but I have to look that up for sure. But what do you think? about this case. What do you think about the book? I don't remember reading about him. If I do, it's very briefly in Bercato's book. I'll have to start reading that book again because we're almost done with it. I'm so enthralled with this one. It's like it's hard to put it down, you know? I just can't read for 3 hours. I can't read for 2 hours. You know what I mean? But I hope that you're gaining an understanding of the prosecutorial side of investigations and the the understanding of trying these people and how no matter how hard you try to keep them locked up, they can always get out and do what they do again because like with Alcala, he was given bail, a diminished bail, and he got out and started killing again. You know, it's it's just amazing how that happens. It's like, we're gonna let you out. You promise to be good? Huh, okay. Reform isn't something that many of these individuals do possess. Because if reform was capable, they wouldn't kill as many people as they did. I mean, it seemed like he enjoyed the attention, the publicity. I mean, think about him representing himself. I mean, that is some arrogant stuff right there. I almost saw Brian representing himself. Bundy escaped twice, if I remember, in Colorado. Yeah, yeah. It's that arrogance. You can't keep me. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. So, are y'all enjoying the book? It's been an interesting week in true crime for sure. I mean, the Krama crowd is going at it full swing. They're going at it pretty strong. Um, Interesting week in true crime. But next week will probably be the same because many people are gearing up for a hearing on the 5th. And let the speculation begin. I'm ready for the trial, bro. I'm ready for the trial on that one. I'm ready for the Gilgo Beach trial. I'm ready for the facts to come out because then we can move on. There seems to be a serial killer on the East Coast, but no one's really covering that. Maybe I'll have to take a deep dive into that. Yeah, it is a slam dunk. I agree. It's interesting to me that even the people who come into these chats that appear to believe that he's not innocent in their words, um, they repeat their own understanding of the case. They refuse to ever listen to anything different, and that's sad. Kind of like the other day, I saw something, and a creator did this case today, where a mother had sex with her stepson. Well, instead of just watching the law and crime broadcast, I went and looked up the affidavit. I wanted to read about what all happened. That way, I would be knowledgeable of that case instead of just listening to somebody else tell me the bits and pieces. You know what I mean? Um, I know you will, Texas. I know you will. As will I. I mean, you know, we Texas boys are built different, right, Texas? We're built different. I don't know what Kato is either. Kato is a creator and she is leaving YouTube because of all this crap. I don't know who that is, Rondi. But many people do want to leave because of that. Many people want to leave because of the drama. But you know what? For every person that leaves, there'll be somebody replacing them for sure. It'll never be over. One thing I can tell you guys as a therapist, you understand that you can't change another person, especially another adult. You can try. You can try to give them insight and knowledge, but when it comes to changing somebody's perception of reality, it's very difficult because a lot of people on these chats have mental health issues. They have substance abuse issues. They have reality issues. They have personality disorders. They have all kinds of stuff. Because you can't tell me that, quote unquote, societal norms are what echoes in these chats. Not all of them. That's why I've tried so hard to create this live and chat where people can come in here and chat without all the silliness that goes on and the name calling and all that other stuff. And if you like the song that I played before the live, if you don't understand, that's satire. It's not judgment. It's not making fun of people. It's satire. There's a difference. You know? Yeah, I saw that. Viviana debunked that, and it's like, at what point are you just gonna say, okay, let's just chill and do something else until the trial? And no, people are just hardcore on doing what they want to do, and that's their prerogative. That's cool. But I can sit here and talk crap for hours, and I just don't feel like it. I had a very great dinner tonight, and it's starting to kick my ass right now. It really is. I'm getting tired for some reason. And it's early here. And this dog's getting on my nerves. But if you want to, go add the Discord. Come hang out with us in Discord. Nina, I hope that whatever you're going through gets better. I wish I could help you, but I can't. If anybody can help Nina, please give what you can, She is in a tough situation, so if you know, you know. But if you can't, hey, that's understandable. Tell your peeps that this is where it's at. Eventually we'll have such a big chat we won't know what to do. It's gonna come. Just wait. It's gonna come. So we're gonna play the song and then we're gonna get out of here. Maestro, cue that music.
To the addicted and unsure, the name 12, the last, is the gauge of the blast. Hear me out, it's all about the game. The YouTube streets ain't got no shame. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. 12 gauge, listen up fast. The beat of the heart will melt your cast. It's the crown of the champ, the image of the might. Get your ass ready, because here comes the might. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. Listen to the words that run from my mic. There will be knowledge, your facts delight. You don't get it, you think I'm the brash. Listen to the ones that you just throw away your cash. 12, 12, 12, can you remember the name? It's about a sinister shadow in the dark to ruin your sleep. With the mares of the night that give you chills, come to the channel. You can get your fears brought to live without the senses making a fight. Your brain beat down from the grifters on these streets. Give the channel a try and dance to the beat of a different drum. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. MG and success is what I'm about. It's the honesty and humility without the clout. I chose to be who I am a long time ago. Addiction had me drowning hell on with the show. 12, 12, 12, 12, click, click, boom. Another round for the unconvinced, here it comes now. Well, all beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. To the addicted and unsure. The name 12, the last, is the gauge of the blast. Hear me out, it's all about the game. The YouTube streets ain't got no shame. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. 12 gauge, listen up fast. The beat of the heart will melt your cast. It's the crown of the champ, the image of the might. Get your ass ready, because here comes the might. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight. Listen to the words that run from my mic. There will be knowledge, your facts delight. You don't get it, you think I'm the brash. Listen to the ones that you just throw away your cash. 12, 12, 12, can you remember the name? It's about a sinister shadow in the dark to ruin your sleep. With the mares of the night that give you chills, come to the channel. You can get your fears brought to live without the senses making a fight. Your brain beat down from the grifters on these streets. Give the channel a try and dance to the beat of a different drum. There are beggars, grifters, betties too. Just a lot of confusion, whatever it do. From missing kids to people being butchered in the night. Many lost in these chats without a fight.